Legal disclaimer. The following is a hypothetical story from my past. The names and places may have been changed to protect the guilty. Let's get to it.
Let me paint the picture first. This is a good story full of intrigue, backstabbing, credit card fraud, detectives.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. It's a pretty good one, though. No hypotheticals there. So let me paint the picture first.
All right.
So this is when I'm younger. I'm not really living anywhere. I'm kind of couch surfing, right? So I'm working at a pizza shop. And I meet this dude who everyone called Skinny Man.
Okay.
You like what I did there?
Yeah.
So, Skinny Man was quite a bit older than I was, and he knew my situation, and he's like, look, if you don't want to haul that studio around, I got an extra room. Why don't you just live in the house? My situation's all right. If you got money for groceries, stuff like that, boom. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I start living with this dude, right? I'm in the spare bedroom. I got the studio in there. And I find out he wasn't well off, right? He was one of them people who, like, dug himself in a hole and doesn't do anything to pull himself out of it. So he was always trying to come up with a scam, but most of them were unsuccessful. So at one point, he comes to me with a handful of credit cards, okay? He's gotten 6 or 8 credit cards, right? Some woman's name on it. I didn't know the woman's name, whatever, didn't care. And he's like, is there anything you can do with these? I'm like, well, I don't really know what to do with them, right? But I do know a dude. So there's this dude I've known forever named Randy, we'll say. Randy's in the pen now. I hope you are doing well. He says, give them to this dude, and if I can get like a TV from it or something, then, you know, they can just go buck wild with them. And, you know, that was his important thing, not paying the bills or anything, not catching up on the electric bill that was behind, right? So I set up the meeting. He already knew the dude, and I kind of let them handle it. But since I'm the one who set it up, I'm kind of on the hook here because he kind of disappears. Like, he takes the cards. He's not picking up the phone. So it leaves me in an awkward situation because I'm the one sitting there like, I don't know. Right. And I'm hearing tales from other people that Randy had this girl he was running with named Tegan. And Randy and Tegan were going to, like, this was when self-checkouts kind of first started. They were going to every Walmart in the area that had self-checkouts. And then what they were doing is they were just filling their carts up, going through, using those credit cards, and just buying everything they wanted, right?
So they're just buying whatever the hell they want, just anything and everything?
I'm getting reports from everyone that they're just balling out of control, right? But yet, nothing's happened. So I'm calling this dude, and I'm like, man, you're putting me in a bad spot here, da-da-da-da-da. Now, he was heavily into drugs, so I don't think he really cared at that point. So eventually, he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to send you to Walmart with Tegan, and she's going to fill up the cart and everything. But they've already burned a handful of these cards, right? No longer usable. They'd go in with their cart full. It would get declined, or it would say attendant incoming, and they just take off running, I guess. Me and her go to Walmart. He gets, if memory serves, he gets his TV, and then I have them buy a bunch of electronics, which I then went and took back to another Walmart and got the guy who originally had the cards, like, months worth of groceries, right? Just to where I could try to salvage the situation. And it's about this point where I find out where the cards came from. Detectives start calling the house, right? And he's like, man, we need to go to my grandma's house right now. So we go to his grandmother's house, who was in the hospital, bear in mind, right? And he had a key. We go in and we start checking the voicemails. And there's like 30 to 50 voicemails from every credit card company in the world. Fraudulent activity, you know. So he had gotten these credit cards from his grandmother, right? So he's like, I know one of the numbers. Before this is all burnt, I want to order a bunch of hatchet gear. A bunch of ICP merchandise, because that's the priority here. Right. And then about 4 or 5 days later, the stuff gets delivered. He sends me over there to pick it up. I'm pretty apprehensive, but I go there. I grab the packages off the porch. I go back. At this point, detectives, everyone else are calling almost daily. You know, I don't know what they know, right? So I contact Randy and Tegan, and I'm like, hey, if you have anything left, even though y'all kind of screwed us over here, like, it's done. That's that. So I kind of forget about it. Now, me and Skinny Man are more or less on the outs now. It's a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm starting to plan my exit here. All of a sudden, I'm asleep. Someone's banging on the door. And they're banging nonstop. He was the type of guy who, if he needed a refrigerator or something, he'd go to Rent-A-Center. He'd pay the first week and then never pay again. So weekly, Rent-A-Center guys were coming by with like dollies and stuff and banging on the door. So I kind of thought that's who it was. So I went out the back door and I was just going to tell him, I don't have access to the house. I was in the backyard. It's a plainclothes guy. And he's like, you're Travis. I need to talk to you. I'm like, whoa. So I sit down there and he pulls out his badge. Okay. Oh, he's a detective for a neighboring county. Okay. So I know right off the bat, he doesn't have any power here. Maybe he can call the local boys to pick me up, but he himself can't. He's like, I'm investigating some credit card fraud and I have information that believes you're involved in it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that stuff. He goes, well, maybe you're right. Let's try something here. Do you know either of these people? And he pulls out like this 8x10 photo from a Walmart surveillance, like where you walk in. And that is Randy and Tegan. And I mean, it's a good picture of them, right? And then another photo of them from another Walmart, right? And he's like, these were the people who used the credit cards. Do you know either of these people? I'm like, no, I've never seen them before in my life. And he's like, well, that's kind of funny. Let me show you why. And he pulls out another photo. And it's me and Tegan going into a Walmart when we went into a Walmart. He's like, that's funny. You're with her. I'm like, I've never seen that girl before in my life. I don't even know what that is me. But inside, I'm just melting, right? And he's like, you need to follow me down to the station now. I have some more photos and some more information to show you. And bear in mind, I'm a kid. I didn't think about the future. I was thinking about the immediate time. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. I said, well, how about we schedule a time and I'll come down and meet you. And he's like, okay, but if I don't hear from you in a week, people are going to start getting arrested for this. So I go back inside, and then when Skinny Man comes home, I tell him the whole deal. And I know he's been talking to the detectives because they've been calling, except now he's going in the other room to have these conversations. And I'm starting to feel like the walls are closing in and I'm going to take the rap for this whole thing, So that was the point. I just moved out, right? I just leave the whole situation. And at this point, I didn't have like a mailing address or really any trackable means to me. What brought this story on is I have a chest of drawers in the other room, and it's all full of stuff from like teenage years, early 20s. That's all that's in there. And I was going through it and I find the card from that detective in there. So I never winded up hearing a resolution to this, right? I do know that Skinny Man's mother was onto it, that he was involved in it, right? And then she came and jumped down my throat because I believe he just pushed all of the blame on me. Right. And like I say, now I'm not really sure where all the characters are at. Skinny Man, he's got to be, if he was in his 30s then, he's got to be pushing 50 now, I'd say. I have no idea where he is in life. I know that Randy's in the pen, and I believe Tegan is like married with kids somewhere. But yeah, all of this about came piling in because of everyone's greed, right? The greed of the man to take the credit cards from his own family. Mm-hmm. The greed of me thinking I could help them out and maybe getting something from it. And then the greed of Tegan and Randy for like, even though we're friends with these people, known them forever, screw them, Right. I can remember at one point when I'm calling and bothering them, right? Tegan's like, well, this is all I can do. And she's like, no, this was on the way to that Walmart. She's like, here, I got a little cash on me. Let me also fill up your tank. So I go into the gas station. I'm getting something. She's paying for the gas with one of those cards in my car, bear in mind, right? So this was one of those things that's like you're dumb you're young and you don't quite understand the consequences. So I don't know if anyone went down for that. I think the only saving grace was that woman. She was currently in the hospital, right? I'm pretty sure she passed at that point, the grandmother. So yeah, the grandson, while the grandmother was literally on her deathbed, was stealing her credit cards and Not to Survive for Insane Clown Posse t-shirts and a television. And all he really got out of it, I think, was a couple of shirts, a TV, and groceries for the month. Because even though he's called Skinny Man, he is far from a skinny man. But this was our first installment of hypothetical stories from our past. What should we call this one? Fraudulent credit scammers?
Fraudulent. Well, no.
Fraudulent Yeah. Yeah, that will not get us demonetized on YouTube at all. But yeah, I'd like to kind of do this regularly. It's hypothetical stories. Of course, it never happened.
Exactly.
And for anybody thinking anything, these are not the names of these people. These are not the locations it happened. One of about 6 people would be able to piece together what story this is. And if you're able to piece it together, it means you were involved. So I don't think you're going to be saying all too much. But we hope all the players in this game are doing well, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, don't really care, I guess. I'm doing pretty good.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess the only thing left to say is no diggity. We got to bag it up and wrap it up, and that is what we shall do. See y'all next time. I am Travis. This is Thomas.
Not apologetic news. Not apologetic news.